welcome to Life of Die, the podcast which discusses all things RPG and wargaming related. Tonight we're going to be talking about the recent Alien role-playing game that came out about a year and a half ago, I think it was. And for this conversation, I'm joined by Craig once again, and I'm joined by Chris.
Hello. Howdy.
So this is an introductory podcast to the Alien game. My friend Chris here has been GMing a lot of Aliens since it came out. He's run the cinematic scenarios and he's also written his own campaign. I think we've run about 40 sessions this year.
As much as that, it doesn't seem like that much, but it probably up there.
Yeah.
Because I was looking through my old all my old documents that I'd created, but I knew some of them had run for like 3 or 4 sessions and things like that. So yeah, it's probably getting up to about 40 sessions, and I'm started writing the next part as well. So yeah, I've been a busy boy.
Nice. I'm looking forward to getting back into it again when you're ready. So you're probably the person best placed to tell us how you found. You found out about Alien before we did. Well, we only found out through you, really, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did you find out about it in the first instance?
Just casually browsing through Facebook one day, came across a post by Beasts of War where it was announcing a new RPG coming out by a company called Free League, and it was Alien. First thing that caught my eye, I was like, oh, what's this? Massive fan of the franchise and first 2 films. So yeah, just kind of found it through that, and it was available for pre-order, and I didn't hesitate. And just seen the cover artwork, and I was like, that's going to be amazing, even just to have the book if no one was going to play it. But I knew a couple of you guys would have been interested, so I just went for it and pre-ordered the whole starter set, which came with a lovely big map, dice, decks of cards, character sheets, cinematic campaign, and the full hardback rule set as well. So yeah, I was just instantly hooked. I was like, that's something I want to do, because I'd been thinking about GMing something for a while through playing Star Wars with you. So yeah, that was it. It was like the beacon that appeared.
No, I mean am I right in saying that was probably the first time that you'd actually bought a role-playing game? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, well, I'd bought a couple of rule books in the past.
Right.
I can't remember. It was a zombie apocalypse one, but the rules were just too complicated and didn't make sense to me at the time, and I just couldn't get behind it and didn't have the urge to push it forward as such. But with Alien, it just kind of grabbed me, and like I knew quite a lot about the background and the lore of the universe. So yeah, I'd plenty of inspiration for it. So that was the first time I'd kind of picked up an RPG system and like ran with it.
Yeah. And I think Craig probably agree with me. The two of us, obviously, because we played sessions with you before the pandemic happened, face to face.
Yeah.
Before we were forced online, but did see the hardback book and the maps and the art and all that, and it was really high quality. I thought the rule book.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a nice thing just to have sitting on your shelf, let alone something to play. Because, like you say, the artwork in it's stunning. I still pick it up, even though we haven't played in about 6 months or something. I still pick it up occasionally and have a look through it, just to get inspiration and ideas.
Mm.
And they've recently released Destroyer of Worlds as well, which is another cinematic scenario, kind of pre-generated characters and things like that. So yeah, that's something else that's on the cards for the future for us.
Yeah, seeing as we both mentioned the cinematic and the campaign, I think probably be an idea to explain what those two things are, intended it's not familiar with the game.
Yeah, so basically there's 2 play styles within the rule set here. You've got cinematic, which is it's meant to go over maybe 1 to 3 sessions, depending on how brutal you are as a GM.
You are.
Well, you've lasted quite a decent amount of time, I'd say.
Well, most of us did. One of us didn't. One of us was dying every other week.
I don't think he learned very much throughout the campaign, but so cinematics are basically what they sound like. It's like a film. It's where you've got a story and it's hard, quick action, and it's just constant and the tension just keeps building. And basically, it's designed so that your players die at the end of it. Pretty much, that's all it is. It's basically like a horror film, sci-fi. It's like somebody's just picked you up and dropped you into the universe and this scenario and see what happens. And it's usually bloody and a lot of death. So yeah, that's one of the play styles, and the other one's like a kind of sandbox campaign style play where you, as a GM, will create your own universe, your own situation for your players to be in, and let them go free and do what they want within the universe, or try and railroad them as best you can. But you probably know, Gordon, that never works out too well. So yeah, that's the other play style, is the campaign, which is what we've been running for the majority of our sessions now.
Yep.
And it's kind of a slow burner, so you'll start off as just kind of very basic introductory characters, and the story will grow from there, just like many other RPGs.
Yep, definitely. And from memory as well, in the rule book, there's 3 different types of campaign that you can run. Is that right?
Yeah, it tells you to kind of let your players decide on a kind of genre within the universe if you want. So there could be the 3 options that give you is Colonial Marines, which is, you imagine, is going to be combat and all that good stuff, and loads of quotes from the films getting flung about. The other option is for used to be space truckers, which is kind of more along the lines of the first film, where you're a crew on a ship doing various jobs, and the other options to be colonists setting up on a planet or in the middle of a new operation, things like that. So it gives you kind of three standard settings for you to pick from. And I think I done that with you guys before we started. I asked, like, what do you want as players? Do you want to be the soldiers, or do you want something a wee bit more civilian? And you landed on the old space truckers, which was good. That gives you a lot of kind of options for exploration and different settings. So it's not always combat orientated.
Yeah, I mean that was actually one of the things I referred to in the, if anybody's listened to the last podcast, which is to do with Cyberpunk. It had different types of groups in it, and one of the things that I suggested that's a good thing as a GM to do is actually ask the players what kind of campaign they want to play, because you might have ideas as a GM what kind of game you want to run, but I think that was a really good thing what you did, because it meant we were buying into it more, because it wasn't like you were telling us, right, this is what you are doing in this campaign. I've decided you'll be space truckers. Yeah, I thought that was a really good thing. Craig, you're in the same group as me. So what was your own feeling on that?
Yeah, it's good to obviously not be railroaded too much, but obviously have a kind of understanding of what you're going to what you want to do, and where you want to take your characters and such. So yeah, no, it's really clean the way they've done it.
Yeah, it's like one of the kind of first pages in the GM section of the book. It's like, find out what your players are happy doing, because, as you say, ultimately that will get them more invested in it and they'll feel more a part of the whole process. So yeah, I've really liked that element of it myself. It makes it easier for a GM as well, because you know what your players want, and it's easier to tailor the scenarios and the storyline to kind of what they're expecting from the game.
No, definitely, and yeah, you, as I say, you did it really well. So it was, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a great campaign, and I'm looking forward to picking up again next time. I suppose one of the things that might be a bit unusual for a game about Alien is that you probably want to use the alien fairly sparingly. You don't really want it
Yeah.
appearing in most sessions, because it's not going to be interesting anymore. It's not going to be frightening, because you're just like, oh, it's Alien again.
Yeah.
So is that, without getting too much into the GM side of things, did they give you, some background material for other things that you can do in the universe, or is it really, because the films are fairly, I would say they're fairly limited in the back, kind of
Yeah.
the universe building. They tend to be all quite contained. The first one's all in the Nostromo, the second one's all in the colony,
Yeah.
third one's in the prison, and so on. There's not really like a lot of, from memory from the films, there's not really a lot of stuff that explains the actual universe and how it works. Potentially if there's other creatures or other dangerous aliens and things like that.
Yeah.
Does the book flesh any of that out at all?
Yeah. The book's got a whole load of like information in it about this universe and the different governments. It seems to put a lot of emphasis on the government and the corporations that are all kind of backstabbing one another and trying to outdo one another. There's a whole section in the book.
And of course, there's a link to Blade Runner, of course, with Alien as well. Potentially, it's the same universe, so that would be picking up some of the strands maybe from Blade Runner. That obviously the Tyrell Corporation in the first one. I can't remember what the company was. Wallace. It was Wallace. It was the one in 2049. So I suppose that with the link to those universes, then it would be a natural progression that they eventually become. The Blade Runner universe grows into the Weyland-Yutanis of the universe.
Yeah, there is a lot of there's a Facebook group for this RPG for GMs and players, basically just to discuss and ask questions. And there's always a lot of posts about where they get their inspiration and things like that from, and other films and franchises that kind of seem to fit into the Alien universe. And Blade Runner's one of the ones that always crops up.
The Imagine Total Recall would probably work quite nicely as well.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Selling air to the mutants. Just it's right up the same street. So
Oh, you're not talking about our characters?
no. Well, only some of yous are mutants. No, but the RPG, the main book gives you like a wealth of possible storylines. It gives you information on some of the key characters as well from the films, like Bishop and things like that. What he done after, because it picks up, not Bishop, sorry. It picks up just after Alien 3. That's that's where it's set. And one of the characters in Aliens, Van Leeuwen, it gives you information about him and what happened to him after the events at Aliens, when he set up the colony on there on LV-426, and he kind of had a bit of a U-turn and things like that, according to the book, and he's out trying to prove what had actually happened and things like that, and looking for proof of the xenomorphs. And so there's a lot of background there.
Somebody should have nailed him to the goddamn wall.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I mean they also had the galaxy map, which it was really nice. It was is that about A3, A2 or something? It was a really large map.
It's A1. It's massive. But that as well. They cover in the book. It's broken down into different sectors, and in the book they cover each sector on that map and some of the key locations like planets, and it gives you a little bit of background about what happens, what that planet was famous for, or if it's LV-426, like alien creatures that are. I think you faced one of them in one of the second sessions that we've done, where Tom lost his first character.
I think I was safely on the ship playing music.
Yeah, you were.
My character was told to stay behind and be ready to take off, so he started playing dance music. So you had radioed back, and I had, in the meantime, loaded this up on YouTube, and so that when you spoke to me, the music kicked in at the same time.
That's some of the things I miss about playing face to face. Like, you don't get that same sort of interaction with your players. Like some of that's a wee bit lost, and you don't get to see the reactions on their faces when you kill them. So that's another bit of a downside. But
yeah, it must be for you.
Aye, definitely. It just takes the fun out of it, Aye, back to the topic about creatures. So yeah, it gives you information on all the alien kind of variants and things that you've seen in the films and through some of the comics, and gives you a lot of information about how they reproduce and all that sort of stuff. And again, yeah, there's absolutely tons of stuff to get your teeth into and get your ideas going.
No, nice. Well, I suppose then probably the best place to start as introductory is to maybe talk about some of the different characters that you can take as a player.
Yep. Hold on, I just find the page.
What was your character, Craig, while Chris is looking?
Yeah, so for the first campaign, I was a corporation agent.
Brooke.
So a bit of a kind of sleazeball Burke type character, yeah. But yeah, I kind of didn't really want to play it straight as such in the way that he's normally, in the way that characters normally been portrayed in the movies. So I went for a bit more of a an actual nice guy, but still was completely untrusted by everyone. And yeah, it was quite an interesting one trying to play that character in that way, as it is all kind of geared up to you being a bit of a sleazeball and backstabbing and stuff. And it's something, I guess, it's something we could talk about, is that kind of almost kind of hidden traitor role that, or traitor role in plain sight a lot of the time, which is quite an interesting one to have in a game like this, especially if you're meant to be in a cohesive band,
Yeah.
On a quest. It doesn't really work if one of them's trying to upset the apple cart a bit too much. But yeah, it worked out quite well. And then eventually, when he died a heroic death, it was I took up the role of an android, and they play a bit differently as well. They've got their own mechanics surrounding that, and it's quite an interesting one. I guess it's one that you need to have everyone on board with doing. It's probably not one you want to do straight out the gate. But yeah, it takes away a lot of the key mechanics that make the game really interesting, like the kind of stress and panicking, that kind of thing. They're kind of taken away from you, but you also get massive buffs to your strength and other stats. But yeah, it's quite a difficult one to play, I think.
That's actually a good point, Craig. You probably should have mentioned about the basic mechanics before we get into the kind of detail of the different characters. There's 4 key attributes from memory, is that right, Chris?
Yeah, that's right. So your key attributes: strength, agility, empathy, and wits. And then within each of those, there's 3 kind of subcategories. So within your strength, you've got heavy machinery, close combat, and stamina. Like heavy machinery's used for operating all sorts of things, from like manual door releases, using tools, all that sort of thing. Stamina, kind of self-explanatory in close combat. In your agility, you have ranged combat, mobility, and piloting. Again, self-explanatory. And empathy, it's more your ability to manipulate people, give commands, or kind of perform medical aid. And that's your 3 kind of subcategories in that. And wits is your general observation, survival as well, which I don't think is something I ever really brought into the campaign, is the whole kind of having to eat food and drink water and all that sort of stuff.
It was a bit the nature of what we were doing, though, because we tended to wake up, and as soon as we woke up, it was, like the on board the Nostromo, it's breakfast time, you go and have that.
Aye.
So we were always actually, I think we did usually say that's what we were doing at the start of, as soon as we came out of hypersleep, so it didn't really come into play.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all the skills, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
We were talking about Cyberpunk last night, and there's about 70 skills or something like that, and probably more.
All right.
So that's one of the things I really liked about Alien, was
Yeah.
that's all you've got to think about. You've got the 4 attributes, and within those you've got 3 subcategories.
Yeah, and even if you don't have the main attribute it's asking you to roll, you just roll your base, what it comes under, because some people don't have things like piloting as a skill.
I don't have the skill, they default to the attribute.
Exactly, yeah. So it's, even if you're crap at doing something, you don't have that skill, you can still roll for it and give it a go, because that's one of the other things. There isn't really a difficulty level when you're rolling dice. It's a d6 system. You roll however many dice is relevant to the level of your attribute. So say you had agility 3, you would roll 3d6, and any 6s you get on that is an instant success. So you're not needing to add anything up. It's just you're looking for 6s. If you get a 6, it's good. That's it. So it's quite streamlined.
Yeah, I always liked that, but you knew as soon as you rolled the dice whether you passed or not, because
yeah,
again, in the D6, we used Star Wars D6, and that was all about difficulty target numbers. So you had to add, if you had 3 dice you were rolling, you had to add them all together, which is fine for 2 or 3 dice, but once you were getting the 7 dice and so on, which you did,
yep,
it became a mathematical exercise a lot of the time. Which is one of the advantages of online play, because when we started playing online, nobody had to worry about that because it was on.
Just done it for you.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. So I just thought that was something that was really good about the system, that there was so few. I don't mean few skills in a bad way. I think it's a really positive thing. It's nice and clean. You know that it comes under that, and all you have to do is get a 6, and you've passed. Basically, that was really it.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of running theme with this game and its design compared to the kind of RPGs of the late 80s and 90s, is that it's kind of pared down to just what you need, and without being over the top in any of its kind of areas, and it just works really nicely. It's really easy to pick up, and it's kind of almost self-explanatory the whole way along. I think it's been done that way.
GM section, it's like, don't make your players roll dice all the time for everything. It's like for something special, like something they've never done before, or if they're trying to fix a computer system or something, roll for running down a corridor, or unless it's like a stressful situation.
Speaking of tension, the thing that's really sets the game aside from all others, and I think it's a brilliant thing because it plays into the themes of the film, where it's like the Lamberts in particular of the series, ones that get a bit hysterical. There's a mechanic built into it for stress. Maybe you can say a bit about that, Chris, because it's really brilliant.
Yeah, that's, as you say, that's the kind of key element in this game that sets it apart from any other game I've ever played. Is, as you say, the stress mechanic. So each time you've got the ability to push a roll. So say you were frantically trying to open a door to get away from something, or to close a door, for example, that was needing a manual crank, and you roll and you fail, you've got the ability to push your roll, which you take a point of stress, and that gives you another dice, which is a different colour from your normal black dice that you use. And the one on this dice is a face hugger symbol, which basically means you've fucked up. So if you roll a 1 on this dice, your character's basically panicking, and the more of these stress dice you get, the higher the chance you've got of panicking. And as you can probably say, it does get out of control quite quickly, and it just keeps building and building until you just get a chance to calm down or you survive the situation. So, and obviously the higher your stress level, there's a table for it. When you panic, you add your current kind of stress level and what your panic roll is together, and it gives you a value. I'm probably not explaining this too well, but yeah, basically, there's a table and you'll see how far you go, and each level's got a different kind of level of panic to it. Obviously, the higher the number, the worse it gets.
Yeah, you start dropping weapons and things like that.
Yeah.
And at the extreme end, you can end up a total gibbering wreck, really, can't you? That's...
Totally, yeah. Yeah. I think a few of you have panicked in a number of occasions.
No, definitely. Once the action tension ratchets up, it seems okay at the start. Like at the start, you're thinking, yeah, I can afford to take this panic. It doesn't bother me. But it doesn't take too much, especially when you're starting to push rolls all the time. If you're failing, and you fail a lot when you're you're starting out, obviously. But yeah, when you're pushing those rolls, and then you're adding a point of stress every time you do that, then the panic can really get out of control actually relatively quickly, depending on what the situation is. So yeah, it was always a lot of fun in it, but it brought a level of tension into the game anyway, without you, because you didn't want to get out of control with your panic, and we were always looking for the magic tablets that take away all the panic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely brought the tension to the game as a player, which is exactly what you want at the table for Alien, because it should be a tense experience. And I don't know how other games compare, and I definitely feel that the stress is a lot higher in Alien than any other games, and I think that's appropriate. That's good. That's exactly what you want for the game. It's in the setting, rather.
Yeah. And it's not just pushing the rolls as well that gets you stress points. It's like seeing things that are quite horrific, like finding a dead body or something like that, or seeing one of your friends getting injured. It's down to the GM basically to dish out the stress points when he sees fit
Yep.
to get the tension going and get people starting to worry. So yeah, that's one of the other things about it as well, is as a GM, it does make you feel quite bad at times. I know I don't show it, right, but it does have you, like, makes you out to be a bit of a bastard at times, because you're actively trying to kill your players, basically.
That's shocking.
Which is something that's not really encouraged in an RPG, but yeah, it's designed for you not to survive, so it's kind of puts you in the spot as well as a GM. So I'd like to thank you for sticking with me for so long.
Well, to me, it was really the cinematic that was the most deadly, and I felt the campaign. It was always better to err on the side of caution, I think,
Yeah,
in the campaign, and I think so long as we weren't being completely gung ho, then we actually did survive a long time. So I wouldn't say that you were.
you did die. You do have to dial it back in the campaign massively.
In the cinematic, you mean?
No, in the campaign, like you have to kind of dial back the brutality of it a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said die a lot. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh right, no, dial it back. Yeah, because otherwise you would just have players dying all the time, like Tom. Hope he doesn't listen to this.
I'm sure he will.
I mean, he's went through so many characters, but I think that's the kind of player he is. He likes the whole character generation and getting right into it and just doing what a naive kind of person would do in a situation like that. So it's kind of he kind of puts himself in the moment.
Yeah, it keeps it fresh from, I suppose. Whereas I'm kind of the opposite. I always want my character to survive, and
Yeah.
I quite like having them conniving behind the scenes. And yeah, there was always a story behind what I was up to in Alien, that I was in the company's side at the start of it, but it was because the company had information about my missing sister, which was in my background, and so my character was doing things that I wouldn't say they were. Well, I wasn't trying to kill the team, put it that way, but at the same time, I wasn't particularly worried because the ends justified the means.
You were trying to pin everything on Craig's character, though, weren't you, Gordon?
Of course. Because he was a company agent and it was a great still for me.
Perfect fit. Yeah. Scapegoat.
Especially the night where I can't remember. I think I accused him of something and he just accepted it.
Yeah.
And it was me that had done it, that was my favourite night.
It was about him getting up and down all night.
That's right. No, it's because I think I'd just genuinely not been paying attention that night.
I think you'd had a few beers, Craig.
Yeah, I think I had a few beers as well, and I just didn't remember genuinely if that was something that we'd discussed or not. So I just went along with it. But then I couldn't get back out of it.
That was quite funny. I was just sitting there like, what the fuck is he doing?
So was that, 'cause I was just like, I've made all this, I've framed him and he's like totally accepting the situation. What is going on? Like, why is he doing that? I don't like. So then I started thinking, actually, he must have been getting up during hypersleep as well, and he's been up to no good. So I thought there was actually two of us in the crew that were had secret agendas against everybody else, but it was really just me. But as I say, I wasn't out to get them, and I did. My character came round and started getting attached to the crew as well. Maybe it didn't come across that way, but actually that was the case. And he didn't. He started feeling bad and trying to backtrack and get them out of the problems that had started. So yeah, and it was difficult for you as a GM but we did talk about it at the start. I think I did say about all this, and I said I didn't want characters to be insta killed because of anything. It's obviously I'm going to create problems for the team, but there should always be a way out of it. And I would, if it came to somebody having to sacrifice himself, I wouldn't let them die on my account, as it were. So yeah, it's just getting the balance right for that kind of thing, because it is difficult. It can totally go the wrong way.
Yeah,
because you just don't want that to happen to your team, that they get wiped out because of something you've been up to in the game rather than a challenge that the GM's created.
Aye, I mean, that whole situation with you and the murder that took place on the station as well that you done, and then it turned you pinned that on Craig as well because there'd been two murders on the station. And it just kind of fortified everyone's mistrust in his character and kind of signed his death warrant as such.
That wasn't the reason he got killed off, though. It was nothing to do with that, was it?
No, I went out.
He went out in a blaze of glory.
That's right. Yeah.
Dragged into a vent.
Yeah. I was one of the longest surviving members of the original crew, actually, at that point.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Bob and Carol's characters are the two.
Yeah, they were fairly cowardly though in the.
Yeah, they play it safe.
I'm sure they'd be delighted to hear this.
Yeah. Well, find out if they're listening to it or not.
In fairness, my character got his comeuppance, so I was the first one to get it against the alien. So I was actually quite pleased. That was a good way to go. That was a good death too. And he did actually try and save the group in his death. So I felt there was a wee bit of try to redeem himself as well, which was a kind of nice end to his kind of character arc, as it were. Never found out what happened to his sister though, so that was the only thing that was upsetting about it. After all that he did, it came to nothing.
I know. That was like one of the integral parts of the kind of story as well. Where she was and what she's doing. I won't say too much because I don't want to don't want to spoil anything for the next sessions, but aye, that was a bit of a blow as the GM when that happened as well.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't deliberately.
No, I know.
You know, I wasn't deliberately trying to get him killed off.
My fault as well for killing you. I could have plot armor and kept you alive, but that's just the kind of guy I am.
I could think his time had come. He did deserve it anyway, so it was fair enough. I was totally at peace with it.
Yeah,
So.
it was quite an abrasive player, or character rather, sorry. You play it so well, Gordon.
Thank you. Anyway, we're getting off the subject here, so bringing it back to the core rules, I suppose the next thing that we have mentioned about the basics of the rules, been through that, would be the character types, the different roles you can play in the game.
Aye, so once you've kind of decided on the genre that you want to play in, the space truckers or marines, that you can go on to kind of pick your characters. So it gives you a list of kind of basic pre-types for you. So you've got Colonial Marine, Colonial Marshal, basically the kind of police officer or detective type character. Company agent, which you alluded to, Craig, has been quite a difficult one to play because you've got the instant kind of stigma attached to you that you're going to screw everyone over. Following on from that, you've got the kid, kind of newt of the world, and the medic. And you've also got an officer. Basically, for that could fit into any of the kind of genres, really, whether you're a space trucker or a marine or.
So like Dallas and Apone.
Yeah, exactly, like Dallas, or maybe even some of the guys that you see in the colony at the start of Aliens, kind of working in the office. You've got pilots, which you played, Gordon, as you know.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yep. And Roughnecks, which is the next one. It's basically your workers, guys working down in the workings of the ships or working on the colony machinery and things like that. Just your kind of average Joes.
Yep. Brett and Parker.
Yep, Brett and Parker. Next one, scientists. Oh, that's the last one, sorry, scientist. Which you don't really see an awful lot of in Aliens. Maybe the medical officer, Ash, fall into this category. Maybe Bishop, even though they're androids, but you get the kind of idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then within all of these kind of characters, you've got a thing called your personal agenda. Now, that comes into play on both the cinematic style scenarios or the campaign. In the cinematic, it will be a short term kind of goal, like basically survive, make sure, try and kill as many people as you can, all that sort of stuff. And that's something that's personal to your character and something you want to achieve. But when it comes into like a campaign, it'll be more of a long term kind of goal that you, or something you want to aspire to during the game. So, for example, the company agent, it tries to give you some hints on the difficult ones like this, like the company agent, where you're going to be instantly accused of any foul play. It tries to give you like other personal agendas, like the company's holding back information from you, like you need to find out what it is and why, or you're a nice guy but the company's blackmailing you to do its dirty work, kind of like your situation, Gordon.
Yep.
So yeah, it gives you like kind of things for you to play with and use during your kind of sessions, things for you to develop your character. And each kind of character type's got a different personal agenda that they can choose, or you can make up your own. You don't need to go with the ones that's telling you here.
Yeah.
This is just giving you ideas.
You do in the cinematic, obviously, because that's a short-term
Aye,
game. It's a one.
yeah.
Well, I say it's a one-shot, but it can be like, as you say, between 1 and 3 sessions. But yeah, you've got a very short, immediate agenda, but the campaign you can really let your imagination fly. So, I mean, I don't think it was anything that was in my. I don't know, maybe it was. I can't really remember offhand, but I don't think it was anything that was suggested for me as a pilot that you had a lost sister. I think that might have been something that I made up.
No, that was something you made up on your own, off your own back. Because I know we had a good discussion before we started playing about things that you'd want to do. And I know you were saying that you didn't want to kind of send anyone to their death or anything like that. So that was things for me to kind of work with as well. And these things do help your GM when you've got like a backstory that you're thinking of and what you want to achieve. I mean, it helped kind of form the campaign as such. I mean, Craig, what was your personal agenda as Brooke?
Yeah, again, that was one that I don't think there was really one that suited him down to a T, because I was trying to play it kind of straight, I guess, or not kind of straight, but as genuinely as a nice guy.
They get accused of being a serial killer and all sorts.
Yeah, there was his personal agenda was to make the family and the company proud of him. So I don't think that was taking one of the kind of default ones. But yeah, I think it's possible to do it. I think still to actually be a a company agent and still not be a total traitor.
It was a bit late, yeah. It was a shame that it took Hardy's death
Yeah, it's a bit late.
and they read his memoirs that they found out that you were actually a good guy.
Yeah, that was a genuine shocker. I think having the real traitor being someone else in the team.
The thing that I enjoyed most about it was I was wearing the Wayland Yutani cap every week at the sessions,
even though you worked for a different company and all that.
essentially saying, I'm the traitor.
Yeah, so you've got personal agendas. They've got a signature item. So again, this is something you can come up with yourself, or it gives you examples. So there's like Employee of the Year award, things like that for the company agent. That's his thing that he's got. It's like yours was your cap, Gordon. Oh no, it was a little spinning.
Yeah.
It was like a fidget spinner type thing that you used.
Oh yeah, what are they called, desktop dancers or something?
Yeah,
Like that?
aye. So it gives you like kind of tailored ones to each of the character types. Like the kid, he's got his lunchbox covered in stickers, or his favourite doll or action figure, like Newt with Casey. So yeah, signature item. That's another one of the getting back into the kind of rules. That's something that you can interact with to kind of calm yourself down when the stress is getting out of control. As long as it's a kind of quiet situation, you're not in danger. You can bring out like that photograph of your lover or whatever and look at it and try and bring yourself back down to earth.
Yeah, it's really nice because it tells you something about the character and it actually has a real purpose in the game. Most times when you do things like that in games, they've got no real purpose other than just to tell you something about the character itself. So it's really nice that it's got that dual thing about the signature item.
It's one of the good elements. Also, it gives you your kind of appearance, but that's something you as a player can decide yourself. I know like you guys like to find pictures and things like that represent your characters. And then it gives you a list of gear that you start with. So you'll start with some cash. It's usually like a D6 times 100 or 2D6 times 100, something like that. And then it gives you a kind of list of things that you start with. So, for instance, the medic here, you get a surgical kit, nap relief, personal med kit, and like a hand radio. So, yeah, it gives you a wee list of things to get started. And it also gives you a list of kind of key attributes, key skills, and your career talents. And that's something that's kind of unique to your character. So, like each character type gets a certain talent that they can use. So the officer gets one called Field Commander, which basically gives him a special ability where he can issue orders to people who are lower in rank to him. So basically he'll do an empathy role to try and that other character will have to perform his action or do what he says, basically. So yeah, there's it gives you plenty of stuff to get going. And there's also a bunch of pre-generated characters that come with the starting cinematic that's included in the main rulebook Bob ran for us. Hadley's Hope is basically the events before the Aliens film, where you take on the role as the colonists. But yeah, it gives you a bunch of pre-generated characters at the back, so things that you could use as a GM. Yeah, loads of stuff there.
And the character, was it character talents are called? Sorry.
Yeah.
They're really good as well because they give you kind of good stunts, I suppose, that you can do in the game.
Yeah.
I seem to recall I was able to fly the ship really fast and suddenly put the foot down and things like that. Yeah, I can't remember exactly all the talents I had.
Aye, there's loads.
And there's general ones as well, isn't there? You can.
Yeah, there's career talents which are specific to your character type, and then there's general talents which anyone can pick from, and you get them through gaining experience throughout the campaign. So you get experience points you can spend it trying to learn a new skill or talent. Yeah, so there's a plethora of talents for you to look through, and they all do different things. Like say some are to do with piloting, some of them they're like to do with combat. So yeah, there's tons.
And I seem to recall a second character, the Colonial Marine. He had banter was one of his talents, where he
Crack
can
some jokes, aye.
exactly, and it leaves the tension for everybody else. And you'd mentioned Napoli leave there when you're talking about the I think it was the science officer, sorry, the medic rather, and that was the tablets I was talking about that can just take away all your stress. But then there's a downside, you can get addicted to them or something, isn't there? Or
Yeah, the more of them that you take, they start to have a downfall. So if you start taking them very regularly during a session, they'll start affecting your mobility and things like that. You become like so relaxed. They're basically they're like drugs that calm you down. So the more of these you take, you're just going to become like melted into your seat, basically. So yes, there's positive and negatives to using these sort of things. But yeah, there's again, I could go through the whole book here and be here for hours. But there are other things in there, medicines and drugs and things in the universe that you can use to help or hinder certain people. So yeah, there's plenty in there.
no, definitely. So hopefully that covers all the basics of the game, and I think in future ones we maybe talk a bit from the GM side of things and how you go about running the cinematics, maybe briefly, because it's pretty much all set out for you in the book.
Yeah.
But probably more interestingly, how you design the Alien campaign and how you don't overuse the Alien, and what kind of storylines you can put into the game, and how to keep it interesting for the players.
And that is one of the key things, I think, for a campaign is to not use the alien and try and hold back on making an appearance from it. As you said at the start of when we started talking about this, is where do you go once you've brought it in? So yeah.
Definitely. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining us for this chat, and we'll be back again soon. So until next time, keep living the life of Die.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye bye.